Hi guys, I'm Atilla from Athaga.com and today I'm doing a faction unit by unit review for Total War Atilla. The faction I am selecting is the Langobards and let's get started. Alright, so I will be dividing this video into three sections. The first one will be for first tier units, second for second tier, and the third for third tier units. Right, let's start with the Tier 1 General. Now, the Germanic nobles are the best Tier 1 infantry commander available in the Langobard faction. And as with most generals, they are kept back unless an emergency arises. So I usually keep the general behind the front lines till half or more of the battle has passed. During that time, you keep using their abilities and keep them close to your front lines so that you can give troops buffs and enemy debuffs. They are good against infantry and even cavalry in most circumstances, but they are vulnerable due to their good armor to Germanic Warbands, crossbowmen, and other armored piercing units. Finally, they can use their steady ability that greatly increases the general's defense, though making him slower. Alright, next is the Spearman unit, the Germanic Levy. Now, I don't like even talking about this unit because it's literally the weakest unit you can use in this game. My advice is keep them on the flank to intercept weak cavalry or hide them in the forest to lay ambushes against cavalry. You can use their defensive spear wall, which makes them better against archers and cavalry while reducing their speed. Now, I am not a real fan of spear walls myself because of the lack of momentum. Like their speed decreases when you use spear wall. And in an open battle, a land battle, they can be very annoying because of that spear wall, because they won't reach the enemy with that spear wall by the time your cavalry and other units have done their job. But I do know that it can be a brilliant tactic if it's used defensively. I would recommend it for defensive settlement choke points. Maybe there will be more on this later in this video. Next is the Langobard Clubman. This is the best infantry unit early game. The reason is, well, if you look at the armies of your opponents in the western regions of Total War Atilla, they are often lacking cavalry. The Clubman acts as an infantry killer, and he's really quick to rout them, I guess. My English is suffering here. He specializes in routing infantry. He also has the shield wall and he can hide in forests. He does have low armor piercing damage though, so focus on eliminating the poorly armored infantry first. The Langobard Clubman isn't exceptionally bad against armored infantry either, so use them against infantry. Then there are the Young Wolves. The Young Wolves aren't horribly bad to start with, but they do become obsolete late game. They scare enemies, are immune to fear, and can dash in rapid advances towards the enemy in a speed that's uncanny for any infantry unit. They're good at blocking arrows too. The downside is that they have poor armor and poor armor piercing damage. Try to soak up arrows with them. I will say they are a pretty balanced unit with both weaknesses and strengths to start with. Next is the Germanic Band and Germanic Warband, which I have banded together in one for the purpose of this video. The Germanic Warband is basically an upgraded form of the Germanic Band. Both of them are aimed at heavily armored units because of their armor-piercing damage. They can go on a frenzy, which improves their attack while increasing fatigue. They are poor in terms of morale and health, though they can scare enemies. Try to pitch them against armored opponents. Now for the Germanic bows and Germanic hunters. I haven't seen many go wrong with them, except for getting to turn off skirmish mode for them, maybe? Yeah, I admit, I think I'm to blame for that sometimes too. These units are weak against cavalry and are best kept hidden behind a wall of spears or iron. Don't have them too far away from your body of soldiers. Have them screens, and they will ratchet up losses among the enemy. Just look for units that have poor missile gog chances, like the horse hewers from the same faction. You can also use fire and whistling arrows. Fire arrows are good against cavalry and morale, while whistling arrows, they're really good against morale. And they scare the foe, but they aren't really strong. And they don't do as much damage. The hunters also have precision shot, which increases missile damage, though it increases fatigue. Then come the Germanic Hurlers. I don't usually have many of these guys in my armies. The only thing good about them is their rate of fire. Otherwise, they lack range, are poor at piercing armor, and just give me another reason for this unit of skirmishers not to really exist. Keep skirmish mode on and protect them from cavalry charges. If you have them in your army anyway. Then among skirmishers, there are the Germanic Brigands. These are light raiders with low ammunition, but good capture power and rate of fire. You can use them as expendable units to take towers while launching a siege on a minor settlement. This unit can also hide and avoid terrain penalties. Me, myself, I prefer the archers over hurlers and skirmishers, but I'm sure there must be someone who's good at using the Germanic Brigands too. Keep them away from cavalry or prolonged engagements, and you're going to be fine. Now then, there is the Germanic Mounted Warband. It's a cavalry unit, and it is the only melee cavalry unit in Tier 1. It's a good generic unit that does not specialize in anything. It has good health, good speed, but lacks the charging power of the Germanic Lances shock cavalry and the anti-cavalry power of the Tefali cavalry. It is my least favorite horse unit, but I think some people enjoy using it. I don't know. Just use it to eliminate straggling enemy archers and attack the enemy back and flanks, and you should be good. But it isn't particularly good at anything. Now it's time for me to mention my favorite Tier 1 unit, the Germanic Lances. Sorry, I'll repeat that. The Germanic Lances. I'm sorry, my voice is a little weird these days. Despite their weakness towards arrow fire, the charging power of the Germanic Lancers gives them a huge edge, and I have used this tactic so many times for flanking enemy infantry and charging archers that I just cannot count. They don't have the ability to form diamond formations though. My advice is never leave them idle. Never leave Germanic Lances idle, especially when the enemy has lots of infantry at its disposal and little or no cavalry. But in the case they have a lot of cavalry, check to see if it is good against other mounted units. If their cavalry is good against other mounted units, they can waste away your Germanic lances. In that case, let the spearmen and anti-cavalry units do their job before presenting Germanic lances in the field. Keep them to the sides of the army for crushing flank attacks and eliminating archers. That's what they're made for, that's what they do. Now there are the Germanic Mounted Brigand. The Germanic Mounted Brigade. I don't use them much, but they are good at harassing enemy formations. They can hide, they can snipe, and they can be a nuisance to the enemy in general. As soon as the enemy infantry charge, they rush back towards the front lines, then they pepper the enemy with arrows again. They are real nuisance to deal with, and maybe these archers, mounted archers, are what give the Huns so much power. Anyway, we'll discuss that later. For the Germanic Mounted Brigade, keep skirmish mode on, keep harassing the enemy, aim particularly at units that are weak against arrows. Don't let enemy cavalry units that are good against mounts charge through them, and you're going to be good. Finally, there is the one siege unit you can build in the earlier sections of the game, and it is the Onager. Now, on the campaign, this isn't easy to build, and there are a number of complications. But anyone knows how the catapult how the Onager can shred an enemy army to absolute pulp. Keep the Onager guarded, rain down rocks based on the weaknesses and composition of the enemy army. And if you aren't content using normal missiles, use the flaming round, which can shatter armor and light buildings on fire. This weapon causes mass casualties and is extremely handy. Use it well. So part 1 of this video is over now, and if you want to take a look at the video again, go back, and this will be the first part of 3 parts of a 3-part complete 3 videos that I'm going to produce about the Langobards and their units. Anyway, thank you for watching. Stay classy, like, subscribe, and the next part should come soon. I just hope people watch this, and I wish you guys the best.